Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and we recently hit a fairly interesting milestone on the channel, that being 25 builds. Yep, the Temple and Shrine video I did this past Friday was my 25th Age of Empires theory crafting video that I have done yet on this channel, not including some other supplemental stuff. And it feels pretty good, man. I'm pretty happy with how things are going, but I figured that now was as good a time as any to do a little bit of a channel check-in. Tell you guys a little bit about my plans for the channel, what I've been noticing thus far, and hopefully get your input on a couple of questions, as well as maybe get you hyped for some of the things you might be seeing in future. I don't have a document or anything ready for this one. It's going to be a lot more impromptu and off the cuff. Just make sure you watch till the end if you want a little bit of a spoiler as to what my master plan, my overarching scheme is for this channel and for Age of Empires theory crafting videos going forward. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So thus far on the channel, to bring you guys up to speed on what we have managed to accomplish as a community over the past year and a bit, we have tackled 20 different civilizations, 8 non-unique units, and 2 buildings, not to mention a bunch of technologies and things like that. The biggest hits on the channel in terms of the total view count have been my Swiss video, which outstrips the other 2 by over 1,000 views, my Return to Rome predictions video, for some reason, and my Zapotex video, the second 2 of which are almost tied, sitting at about 1,900 views as of now. I tell you this both because it's relatively interesting and also because, as I get into later, transparency is very, very important to me and something that I want to do more of on this channel if there is any interest in it among you guys. I also should note that I've noticed this trend where whenever I do a topical video, like on Return to Rome, for example, it usually takes me like all of 15 minutes to record the thing and usually under an hour to edit it. And then it does like quite well, like almost inevitably well in the algorithm. And that's just the way the game goes on YouTube. I'm certainly not bitching about it. And hopefully it's brought in a couple of people who might not normally have found the theory crafting stuff normally. But it is always just a bummer when I spend like 8-9 hours on a theory craft and it does way worse than some little thing that I shat out in an hour, you know what I mean? It might mean that I do topical videos a little bit more often just to like drum up some interest among audiences who might not normally look for content like this. Also, in this time, we have gained 450 subscribers, multiplying up my total channel size by 10 in a bit over a year, and we've gotten 42,000 views in this year's time. Amazing. And all of you guys have played a big part in the growth of this channel and this content more broadly. Theory crafting Age of Empires 2 Civilizations is not exactly like a popular thing to talk about, and the fact that we have gotten a good amount of traction is really wonderful to see, and I am humbled and delighted that you would be with me on this little trip. Again, why am I telling you about all this? Transparency matters to me. If you guys want at some point on a live stream, I will bring you into my YouTube analytics tab and we can take a look through together, because it's a lot of fun to do. And I feel like being secret squirrel about this sort of shit is just a way to foment mistrust. And not to mention, I ask you guys for input on things about this channel all the time, so it's only fair that I show you a little bit of what's under the hood on my side of things, if that makes sense. And as mentioned, I'm more than happy to go into further detail about any of these analytics if any of you guys are interested. It's fun for me, I'm hoping it's fun for you, and if you don't care, then don't worry about it. You won't have to see it if you aren't actively looking for it. Now let's move on to a little bit of news. There are 2 cool things that are going to be happening over the next couple months for sure. One of which, I'm committing to it. We've needed it for a while. It keeps coming up as being a necessity. We're going to have a Discord server by the end of the month. Now, not only do I want this to be a hub for theory crafting writ large, but I also want something just more kind of casual and fun. Somewhere where, you know, we can post memes and chat with each other and keep things light and cordial and enjoyable, as well as sharing things like history sources and references and cool stuff that we find. I could see a lot of nice things coming out of this. Now, Discord isn't a perfect service by any means. There's a lot of problems with it, but it's the best option we have for something like this as of now. And from what I've seen, a lot of my viewers are already on Discord. I've had some great conversations with many of you already. I also think that a benefit of having a Discord server will be that I can kind of make myself available in public voice chat like once or twice a week, just to like hang out with you guys, hear your thoughts, and most importantly, as we'll get into later, give you guys a chance to give me input and feedback outside of the comments section, as that is starting to get a little bit hard for me to manage. We'll get into a few more details on that a little later on. Now, second piece of news. This one is very, very exciting for me in particular. I am going to be setting up a crowdfunder this summer for a game I have created called Enclave. I've been making games for a very long time. I'm a tabletop game designer who focuses in my own kind of unusual genre of largely diceless, acting-focused tabletop games. And Enclave is my flagship game. I made it all the way back in 2013 when I was in college, and it really took off towards kind of the end of my schooling career, at which point I tried to turn it into a live hosting business, and after that, realizing that that didn't really work out, it's taken me quite a few years to do so, but I have finally managed to transform it into an official rule set. A lot of people have played it over the years, and it's been a huge fixture in my life, and my crowdfunder for it is going to be going live this summer. Now, I'm not going to be slowing down my Age of Empires content for this, not by any means. But I will be promoting it here off and on. It's something that matters an awful lot to me, and from what I've seen down in the comments section talking to you guys, a good number of you already like tabletop games and the fantasy genre more broadly. I, of course, already kind of sprinkle in tabletop and fantasy stuff on this channel already, and a good number of you have made the shift from Age of Empires to that in the past just to kind of see what's going on, and it's been really, really fun. That being said, I do intend on taking the opportunity around that time to make a second channel, kind of splitting my Age of Empires stuff from my tabletop game stuff. And so not only will all of you who are interested be able to jump over there, but hopefully it will let this channel be a lot more focused just on Age of Empires. I'll be able to rebrand at that time and hopefully focus on what people are largely coming to me for, while still ensuring that the stuff that, if I'm honest, means a lot more to me is still a presence within YouTube, and hopefully there can be some cross-pollination between the two channels. So just know that you'll be seeing this interesting symbol an awful lot more this summer. Though Enclave is of course not the focus of this channel, I hope you understand my desire in trying to promote it on this channel in part. Again, it's a project that has been probably one of the most important parts of my life for quite a long time, and the fact that it might be a real boy someday soon is something that still feels kind of surreal to me. So keep an eye out for that going forward. Let's move on to some open questions, stuff that I want to hear your thoughts on more broadly pertaining to this channel. We'll just kind of go rapid fire. Obviously, I want to hear your thoughts on all of this down in the comments section. Please do share as per usual, but these open questions in particular, I'd like to get your input on. All right, first of all, responding to comments. Now, I've prided myself for quite some time on responding to every single comment, or at least the vast majority of comments that are made on the channel, especially ones that kind of ask me a question or open up a topic of discussion. It's something I really, really care about and I really enjoy doing. However, it is getting quite hard to do so, unfortunately. Typically, when I respond to the comments on one of my theory crafting builds, it takes me well over an hour and a half to do so, both because I like to give thorough responses, and more importantly, because you guys give very thorough comments yourselves. Recently, however, this number has climbed substantially. The most recent Temple and Shrine video got something like 60 or 70 comments in a day and a half. And to go through and respond to all of those, many of which are very elaborate and detailed, would probably take me about 3 hours, if I'm guessing based on past experiences. And that's starting to get a little bit difficult for me to manage. The trick, though, is that it's really important. I love responding to comments. It's a huge part of what's made this channel fun for me. And so what I'm thinking about is, would you guys be open to me obviously reading through the comments and leaving shorter form responses, or maybe not responding to as many, and instead trying to relegate a lot of the back and forth discussion onto Discord? If I'm jumping into voice calls, that's not only way easier for me to manage, it means that I don't have to be typing, instead I can be talking, which is a lot more natural for me. But also it allows for a lot more back and forth. Hopefully other people can all pile in together into one big call, and we can kind of civilly pass the torch around to hear from everyone, and should be a more collaborative and fun process. Again, it really tears me up mentioning this, because responding to comments has been one of the most important fixtures of this channel since its inception. but I am starting to notice a little bit of burnout in that regard, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. Moving on. Collab videos. Obviously, I've done a bunch of viewer collab videos. You've seen quite a few recently. You'll see more in the future. I'm not asking whether or not you guys want to see them from me, because a lot of people seem to really enjoy them. My question is, do you think I'm doing too many? Do you think I'm doing too few? Would you guys, for example, like to see a world in which almost all of my builds are actual viewer collab videos, especially with people who like really know their shit, you know what I mean? Or would you prefer a world in which most of the videos are coming solely from my research, or does it not matter to you? This is just something I've noticed come up once or twice in the comments section that I wanted to check with more broadly. Do you guys have any opinions on viewer collabs on this channel? Next, transparency. I want to know how important it is to you guys. As mentioned, it matters a lot to me that I am open and honest with you guys about everything to do with this channel, particularly stuff that you don't normally have access to, like the YouTube Creator Studio. As I'll get into in a later section of this video, monetization is on the horizon for this channel, and when that time comes, I feel like being transparent around finances is particularly important. It feels weird to me that I would be able to make money with a hobby like this, but I'm quite intrigued by the prospect, and I have some ideas on what to do with that money that I'll be getting into shortly. I'm just interested in hearing your thoughts on how important it is to you that I am very forthcoming with the behind the scenes of this channel. Is it something that you care about? Is it something that you'd actively not want to see? Or is it something that you, like me, think is actually quite important to do? Just let me know. The fact that this channel is possibly going to be monetized soon is kind of weird to think about for me. Last open question for now, video essays. I did my ethnic versus dynastic civilizations video a little while back. I had a ton of fun making that thing, but I'll be honest, guys, that was the hardest video I've ever made. It took a lot of work. And I want to know from you guys whether you thought it was worth it. How much would you like to see video essays in the future versus my typical presentation format? Because if you really like them, it did fairly okay. It got algorithmed just a little bit, like it's above average in terms of views. But more important to me than raw views is the enjoyment of my core audience. Because it's you guys that I'm really making these videos for, you know what I mean? Now, let's move on. Big development. This is one of the main things I've been thinking about this channel recently, namely monetization and modding. So, as mentioned, it is looking like I will be able to monetize, if I grow at the exact same rate, by this time next year, but I might hit it sooner. And my thought was that once these videos start making money, what if I put that money towards paying modders to implement some of the wacky builds that we've come up with in a way that's a lot more tangible than the pure theory crafting we're dealing with right now. You can also put this money towards artists to up the video quality, because obviously I'm mostly using assets that I have ripped from online, and that doesn't quite rub me the right way. As mentioned, it feels a little weird to me that I would be able to monetize a channel like this, and at least for now, I think I would be more comfortable making money off of it if I were putting that money back into the Age of Empires community via, in this case, paying modders. And as such, while this will only kick in once I hit 1,000 subscribers, if you or anyone you know happens to be an experienced modder for the game, please do reach out to me. My email is available in the About tab of my channel if you are viewing on desktop. It is robbieworks80092@gmail.com. I'll have it appear on screen right now for you. Please do reach out. I'm actually quite passionate about making this part of the project happen. It feels like a logical next step in where this channel is going. And can you imagine, even if we start with just something small, like just doing the hunting dog, for example, can you imagine how cool it would be if we were able to put these builds out into the public and pay modders to do so? That would be so freaking cool, man. And so that's something that's looking more and more realistic with each passing day. I have also been asked in the comments a couple times about whether I have or intend on opening a Patreon. I'll be honest, I'd feel weird doing so. Like, this is a hobby, you know what I mean? It's not really what I intended on doing for any sort of money. And as such, if I were to do a Patreon, it would pretty much all be earmarked to just put right back into the project in terms of paying modders and artists. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that this approach to channel finance is viable, even if we're only making frickin' like $10 a month off of videos? That's still $10 I can put into a pot to pay modders with, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Money is always a sensitive subject, and for something as cozy and personal and passion-driven as this project, it doesn't seem like something I should just kind of take for granted, if that makes sense. Let's move on. I want to share with you some future plans I have for the channel. These are all things I'm pretty much locked in on. Like, I really want to do all of these. Now, first of all, I want to do some more fluffy content. Things like tier lists. I've mentioned it in polls before, but the main reason I'd be doing this, besides it's fun, it's light, it's easy for me, is it's also a way to get outreach. We want to have more people come to the channel to see the theory crafting content because it's fun and cool and underrated. More people should be doing theory crafting stuff. It makes me feel like outreach content like this could actually be a pretty valuable thing to do. Secondly, viewer campaigns. Obviously, I started this a few weeks back with my friend Lorenzo. That will be forthcoming. The trick is I do a lot more editing for those, so it's a little bit at a time. As such, while I do want to play a lot more viewer campaigns than just Lorenzo's, it will take a little bit of time to get there, especially because Lorenzo's campaign is on the longer side. So just know more of that is going to happen in future. Nextly, in early July, it's my birthday, and I was thinking that a cool way to celebrate could be to do something big. My current thought is to do a triple build, like not 3 builds in one video. I've already subjected you to enough hour and 15-minute long builds already with Temple and Shrine, but do like 3 builds in a row, day, you know what I mean? So a big flood of content in early July, probably all following the same theme or breaking down the same civilization. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do with that, but you guys let me know if you think that would be too much theory crafting content in a row. Next, collabs with other channels. I've talked to a bunch of you guys about this in comments. I've mentioned it in polls and similar, and I've met a lot of great content creators already, one of which I actually might be doing a more formal collab with a little bit later this year. But just to reiterate, if you guys know of any RTS channels or adjacent who might be interested in doing some stuff with me, maybe a history channel even, especially one who is around my size, like I'm certainly not going to be doing collabs with people who are much bigger than me, please do point me in their direction. It would be great to expand my horizons and see what else is out there, as well as talk with some other content creators on the platform, because it's fun. Next, theory crafts for existing civilizations. Ooh, very exciting. Obviously, I approach builds in a very different way from how the game currently does. But I think that just kind of taking the format we have now and just applying it to existing civilizations that I find to be a little unsatisfying could be quite good. A number of you have expressed interest in this in the past, and I already know which civilization I'll be doing first. So just know that this will be happening, and we'll see how that build is received when time comes for it. And lastly, personal content. Obviously, we have focused majority of this channel on Age of Empires with a little bit of world building and tabletop stuff thrown in there as well. But there are other stuff I do want to make videos about at some point. You know, my family, my experiences in acting, my hobbies, and like finance stuff, which is another big thing that I do. There's just a lot of smaller scale stuff that I'm very interested in. And I know that it doesn't do as well in the algorithm, and I'm sure many fewer of you guys will watch it. And so just know that you absolutely don't have to. I do want to still be able to make content for this channel that just kind of matters to me, even if it does slow my metrics to some degree. You know, number go up. Oh no, number don't go up as fast. But that's not always what matters. So just know that that is something that's going to happen. Just, you know, few and far between, and there's absolutely no obligations to care about it. You know what I mean? It won't slow the AoE 2 stuff if I have my way. Next, future possibilities. Some stuff that I haven't committed to as hard yet, but I am strongly considering. And a few of these are like pretty big scale things, so I'd really be interested in hearing your thoughts on which of these seems most appealing to you. First of all, public theory crafting assets. A couple people have asked me before how I get my visuals for my theory crafting stuff. Things like the civilization bonus box that I use and my tech tree setup that I use in my, my civilization documents and things. And the answer is I made almost all of them myself by ripping existing assets, especially on the Age of Empires wiki. But I made my own adaptations to them. And I think it could be quite cool if at some point I made like a repository of these assets to make them completely public to you guys so that people can make their own theory crafted builds a lot easier with visuals that are a little more simple to use and appealing. There could be even some other stuff that we use here, like maybe a list of unused bonuses or stuff like that. Though I should note, an editor on the Age of Empires wiki did at one point comment saying that they had an asset kind of like that. So maybe if we were to do this, we could do like an expanded version of that had all sorts of wacky stuff in it. It could be quite cool. Definitely a good amount of work, and I'm not really sure whether it would be like worth it, I guess. Like, I don't know how many people would actually make use of it, but especially if there's clamor for it, it's definitely something I've considered. Next. This is probably my most ambitious project besides the current Age of Empires theory crafting stuff. A series called Age of Fantasy, where I take existing fantasy IP, like an obvious example, the Rohirrim, right? And I port it into an Age of Empires 2 framework, kind of like keeping the same way that Age of Empires kind of works now, but with new skins and new units and new powers that kind of befit the fantasy IP I'm doing. Obviously, this is largely inspired by that one amazing Age of Empires Lord of the Rings mod that I believe is still going strong. And I just loved that idea so much that I was like, how cool would it be if we took like Fire Emblem civilizations and we put them into Age of Empires? Or we took Warcraft civilizations and we put them into Age of Empires. You know what I mean? I think that would be absolutely sick. And it would also scratch my itch for fantasy-oriented content. I've briefly mentioned in the past that I absolutely love the game Age of Wonders 1. And I actually got my start in theory crafting back when I was 15 doing Age of Wonders 1 builds. Just in my own time, you know what I mean? In many ways, Age of Wonders 1 is a game I enjoy theory crafting even more than Age of Empires 2, but no one plays it, you know, it's not very popular. And so doing something like this Age of Fantasy thing could be a good way of getting me to like fulfill my Age of Wonders theory crafting fantasies while still keeping it friendly for an Age of Empires 2 audience and maybe bringing in some other people besides. So let me know your thoughts on that one. Next, more than one commenter has asked me, if I had total control over the design of a strategy game, top to bottom, head to toe, what would I do with it? It's a big question. Would you guys be interested in seeing a series at some point where I go into thoughts on what I would make if I were able to create a strategy game? I could see this being something I only do like a ways down the line. Like there's plenty of other things that I think are higher priority, but it's definitely a very interesting idea and definitely a question that I, and I'm sure many of you, have thought about many, many times. Another thing I may try out in the future is some comedy content. I really love comedy content. It's something that I've tried to make in the past, and I've tried to incorporate elements of comedy and kind of personality-driven humor into my videos. It's typically been pretty well received, and I have a number of ideas for it. I don't really want to spoil any of them, but especially for like shorter form stuff that again would be more of an outreach thing than like a core content thing. It's something that has tickled my fancy on more than a few occasions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on. And lastly, viewer games. I am not a good Age of Empires player. I'm sure many of you would stomp me. But I think that maybe doing like a stream or something at some point where we can just kind of do a bunch of 1v1s or team games as a community together, maybe all in like the Discord voice chat or something like that. I think that could be some good chaotic, wholesome fun, and maybe we could make a little series out of it. Maybe I could do some more like slightly edited, comedy-oriented videos. There's a lot of potential ways we could go with this thing, and even if we didn't end up making them into content, doing some viewer games once we have the Discord set up sounds like something that could be pretty fun as well. Lastly, I hear that you want to know about my overarching scheme. What is my goal in doing all of this Age of Empires theory crafting? Is there a destination I am trying to get to? Why, yes, there is. When I started this project, before I started this project even, I created a like 50-page document outlining an overarching scheme on how I would change Age of Empires 2 if I were able to. That document doesn't even include any of the civilizations I've covered thus far and barely touches upon the units and buildings I've covered. But since then, I've expanded upon this document. So if we are able to keep this channel going and healthy for another couple of years, you might expect to see as many as 175 additional civilizations. Ooh, dear, that's quite a big number. As well as 200 units, including 75 regionals, about 40 buildings, at least 150 technologies, though I normally bundle those into the other builds. Major overhauls to core mechanics, like elevation, for example. and expanded versus traditional tech trees in builds. Like, at some point, I'm going to need to start releasing 2 entire separate builds for every civilization I tackle. One with a traditional Age of Empires 2 as it exists right now structure, and one with a drastically expanded Robbieverse structure, so to speak. Now, will all of this end up happening? I have no idea. I don't know whether this channel will last that long, but if it does, just know I have quite a lot of content that is planned. And will all 175 civilizations end up being created? I mean, probably not if I'm honest, but a good chunk of them probably will, and more might be sifted out as I do further research. And, of course, to add a disclaimer, is this all something that I expect or demand or need to have in the game in full? No. Why do we do this? At the end of the day, because it is fun. It is fun to dream big, it is fun to shoot for the moon, and it's fun to push the boundaries of what is possible and often what is advisable. I don't plan on necessarily crusading for any of these changes by any means, but you know, we're gonna see how far we can take it. And with all that, we come to the end of this first ever channel check-in. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch, and as mentioned, audience participation is especially important for this video, so please do share any input you might have. Even though I mentioned that reading and responding to comments is becoming a little bit tough for me, all comments on this video will be read and considered in full, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to watch through, share your thoughts, and for being a part of this channel now and going forward. You guys are wonderful, and I really have enjoyed every conversation I have had with every single one of you. So I sincerely thank you for your patronage, and as always, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.